Hi everyone. So it seems I go from not posting very often. Well, I was posting almost every day when I was in my truck, and then I came here, and the videos slowed down a bit. So now God's like, okay, let's ramp up. Um, and I have been doing videos periodically throughout the time I've been here, but it's not been like this, back to back to back to back, like it was in the beginning. And that's how you know God is moving, because He's having me come before you and provide you with these updates. If you can remember, when I moved from my apartment into my truck, there was like a 3 week or 4 week, no, it was like 2 months, 3 months, where I wasn't doing any videos. And then suddenly I was here and I'm doing videos every day. And I was in the park and I was in my car and I was living in my car, and the state of my car when I left it was atrocious. And God is showing me, look, because I keep, like, was like, God, you're not having me clean. And between yesterday, so yesterday, I did all of my laundry. I did a part of the cleaning, and then God goes, okay, let's sit down and have some wine. And I was like, okay, so I thought a little bit, right? He got me sloshed. I was like, I woke up this morning, I was like, Father, you had me drink so much wine. He goes, I know, but it was fun. And I'm like, what are we celebrating? And then, okay, so I need to show you. See, there's that right there, that little hat. Um, so I don't celebrate New Year's. Just something that occurred back when I was married. We went out for New Year's to celebrate, and upon arrival to my mom's house to pick up the kids, a bullet landed between my ex-husband and I. And so that was we're not doing this ever again. We're not going out. If we're going to celebrate, we'll celebrate at home. And from that day forward, from the new year forward, we never went out. We just stayed home. I would buy whatever we needed, whether it was wine, food, whatever, and then we'd celebrate with the kids, and then we'd send them off to bed, and then we'd finish off the year, just him and I. Well, God had me He had me going to this pub. It's a pub, but it's also a restaurant. And I always went to sit at the bar. And so New Year's was coming up, and I was going to be working on New Year's, so I was going to be coming home after work because I'm not going out, right? So God's like, ask them if you can have some of those hats. I was like, I don't celebrate New Year's. Like, why would I even want the hats? And oh my goodness, my friend, because the girl that works there, she and I became friends, and Hannah was like, "Oh yes, you need hats." And she goes, "How many hats do you want?" I'm like, "I only need two." And she goes, "Okay." So she brought me two hats, and then two different color hats, a silver hat and a black hat. The silver hat has black letters on it. The black hat has gold letters on it. And then she goes, oh, but you gotta have beads. And she went and dragged out like hundreds of bead necklaces. And I'm like, I don't need that many. And God said, take a handful. I'm like, okay. So I took a handful of beads. And so I'm looking at this hat and these beads, and I'm going, okay, Father, so should I toss those out? And he goes, why? The New Year's coming. And I was like, New Year? And then that's when he reminded me, the Hebrew New Year, the important year. And I was like, oh. And so yesterday, I'm cleaning, I'm organizing everything, I'm putting everything in its place, and God had not unctioned me. I heard the words. I heard the prophet saying, be ready, be ready, be ready, be ready. Be ready so you don't have to get ready. That's what Bold for Christ says. And um, and I've been hearing words. You're moving, you're moving, you're moving, you're moving, you're moving. And the words are getting louder and the words are getting louder. And I know I've got to be prepared. So yesterday, God had me wash all of my clothes. Now, don't ask me why. For 2 weeks, God would not let me do laundry except for in my room. He would not let me go and talk to the manager and the owner and say, hey, is there a working washer so I can wash my clothes? Until yesterday, he had me wash everything. And he goes, leave out only the necessities. You only need a pair of shorts, a t-shirt, a pair of jeans, a blouse, and a dress. And I was like, are we forgetting anything else? And he's like, I feel him when I'm being smart. He's like, I'm like, okay, you don't have to say it. I know I need to have underwear and socks and all that. And he goes, yeah. And so last night, I haven't been texting my husband at all since I left, except for the 2 things that God had me text him. Now, because I haven't been in contact with him and he hasn't felt my presence, he's been in a sad mood. He's been, crying. And last night, in my intoxication, God says, send him a text. And I'm like, what am I going to say? Like, you told me not to text him. You told me that it's his turn to chase me. And here I am now texting. And he goes, he thinks you don't love him. He thinks, it's not that he thinks I don't love him. It's he thinks I'm mad at him. He thinks I'm upset with him, that I'm not going to forgive him, that I'm not going to give him another chance. And I said, what should I text him? I've already said thank you. And I've already said that, this isn't the end for us. And I don't know what else I can say. And he goes, tell him the joke that he told you back last year. And I was like, it's a corny joke and it's inappropriate. And he goes, but it's funny. I was like, it's funny, yes. And I'm going to say the joke because you guys want to know the joke? Okay, here it goes. So this is what my husband told me last year. And he says to me, he says, so this guy has a friend. And his friend says to him, hey, so my parents gave me inline skates today. And now I have to tell them I'm gay. Don't ask me why it makes me laugh. But it does. Because it's such a dumb joke. But it's funny. So that's what I sent him. And I got woken up. So if you remember last week, I said that there was a phone call, a scam that my ex-husband tried to play on me to try and scare me to talk to him. Well, today it repeated. I got a phone call from some guy saying, hey, this is the benefits. I didn't answer. God says don't answer the phone calls that you don't know. I'm like, okay. So I let it. I said, if they want to talk to me, they can leave me a voicemail. And it's from you. They will leave a voicemail and you will have me read it. And it was a scam. It's some billing department from benefits, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to that company's website. I'm not doing any of that. Nope. And God said, it's a scam. Don't worry about it. It's not for you. And yesterday he had led me to go and book an appointment for this morning for my toes to get done. And the lady calls, and I saw the call, and I was like, eh. And God goes, don't worry about it. Just hang up. Or just don't answer the call. So I ignored it. She calls again. I ignored it again. She left a voicemail. And I was like, oh, Father, I thought it was later in the afternoon. He goes, no, it was this morning. And he goes, but don't worry about it. Just paint your nails, and he's not gonna bother. He's not gonna care. And because last night God had me cut my nails, and I was like, I didn't do half a bad job. And so the only thing I need to do is paint them over, and I have nail polish, so I'll just paint them and leave them to dry because I have nothing else to do. But before I do that, God's like, okay, but we need to clean. We need to pack. And I was like, wait, what? Like he just dropped it in my spirit. Like I got up and I was like, okay, time to start my day. It's time to start my coffee. Here's my coffee. And as I'm preparing my coffee and I'm making my bed, all of a sudden I hear, time, pack. I was like, the frantic feeling of having to pack. And I'm like, okay, what how am I gonna, and God goes, relax, you have time. He goes, but I want you to be ready to pack. He goes, do you remember what I told you to leave out? I'm like, yeah. And he says, okay, so today I'm going to spend the majority of my day packing and being ready to go. It was on a Thursday that I left to go to California. It was on a Saturday that I left to come to Arizona. And I went to go back on Sunday, and God didn't let me go back. He had me stay. Now, I have more than enough money to stay in this place for 3 weeks. And God is like, you're not going to be here 3 weeks. So I need you to hold on to the money until I tell you to pay and how much to pay and for how long. I'm like, okay. Because he doesn't want me to overpay. Because I'm not going to get that money back. Once that money leaves my hands, that man is not going to refund that money. He is going to find any excuse to keep the money. So that's why God is saying, wait. And, he wants me to share a dream. So I was dreaming this morning. I was at a train station, a train station with my husband. And he had a puppy. Now, remember, I told you guys that he didn't want dogs. And I told him, okay, I'll give up my dog if you want me to. And in this dream, he's bringing me a puppy. And he was the most cutest, adorable puppy, brown and white spots. Reminded me of my dog when I was a child. And he was so cute and adorable, but he was so small. And I put him in my purse. And so I was walking, and my husband and I got separated, and he ended up in the train in front of me. So he went ahead of me. And I stayed behind with my dog. And then when my husband and I finally met up again, I dropped my purse with my dog in it. And I was like, oh no, my puppy. I didn't care about the purse. I cared about my dog. And my husband went to retrieve my purse with my dog. And so he found it. He brought it back to me. He goes, here you go. And I put my little satchel on. And there's my doggy peeping his head out, just looking out. And I looked at my husband and I said, I think he's going to love being in that bag. And he goes, yeah, until it gets too big for it. And I was like, and too big for me to carry. And so we're poking fun at each other about the dog. And so we get to my house and it's pouring rain. Okay, so we're at this shopping center now. And so the scene changes and my husband's not with me anymore. He stayed in the shopping center because he had some things to break up. And so I'm watching him and God says, go home. And I was like, okay. So I walked into the house and it was pouring, torrential rain, like just downpour. But I barely got wet. And my doggy was like hiding in the purse because he was like, I don't want to get wet. Like he just kept looking up like every so often. And he's like, I don't want to get wet. You get wet. And so I kind of used my hand as a shield so that he could have some coverage from the rain. And so we get to my house, which for some reason looks like my grandma's house. My grandma's old house with the yellow exterior walls and the big rose bushes and I was like, I know this house. And so I walk in and it's pouring outside and the water's starting to rise. And I was like, I need to do something because it's going to get in the house. And the house is dry. There's no water in the house whatsoever. I open the door. The water doesn't come in. I turn around and there's like a foot of water in the house. And I'm like, what the? How did the house get flooded? It's like the rain was inside the house. And the water from inside the house starts pouring outside. And then my husband arrived and he goes, what happened to the house? And I said, I don't know. I opened the door in the house. I found the water in the house. Like, I don't even know how he got there. And he goes, but did you let it in? I'm like, no. I said, we have a downslope, so the water was going down. It wasn't coming in. And so, and then the lights wouldn't come on. And he's looking at me and he's like, looking around and he goes, but nothing's damaged. And I said, I know, which is odd, but the lights won't turn on. And he goes, okay, so we got to get this water out of here. And he starts to push the water out with his foot. And one push of this water and the water's gone. And I was like, what the heck? I don't understand. So this Goddard's sorry. God is telling us that the latter rain is going to overflow us. It's going to overtake us, and it's going to be in places that we did not expect there to be water, there to be overflow. I did not expect my house to be overflowed. I did not expect that location where I was going to be moving to was going to overflow. And that's exactly where the overflow is, in my home. So last night, I was talking to God in this inebriated state. And it's basically me giving him my yes again. And I said, Father, I know you said you're going to give me cars and you're going to give me homes. You're going to give me this and that. And I said, but I only asked you for one thing. I said, when I was 13 years old, actually I was 11. I was younger. The woman that raised me forced me to do the laundry. And when you do laundry, it's laundry for 5 people. So it was the laundry for 5 people. It was the entire house, bedding. It was curtains, everything. Like, this woman would take everything and put it in the garage where we had the washer and dryer. Now, we didn't own this home. We were renting it. But like I said, throughout my life, God had given me opportunities of feeling like a normal person. I didn't feel like we were poor. I didn't know we were poor. Because even though we were poor, we were still living in decent accommodations. We weren't living in shacks. We weren't living on we did live on the streets every now and then, but not for very long. And God always made sure that I ended up somewhere where I was going to be blessed or protected by the people around me, even if the people in my home weren't protecting me. And so, as I was doing the laundry, in the back of the house was, we didn't have a dryer, so we had to hang up our clothes to dry. Now, don't ask me how this happened. Don't ask me where this came from, or, but as I was hanging up one of my shirts, a bee flew out and got caught in my hair. And when I went to try and untangle it to get it out of my hair, it stung me. And I was like, this is like 10 o'clock at night. I'm doing laundry. And this bee just flew out of clothes that were in the washer. Only God. And when this manager called me Queen Bee, I was like, you have no idea what that means to me. And before that, when I was just a child, I was, 2, 3 years old, I got out of the house, out of my grandmother's care. And in the back of her house, there was a wall, and on top they had a bed of flowers, daisies, yellow daisies. And to me, they always look like a carpet. And I wanted to step on the carpet. Well, if you don't look carefully, you won't see that there's bees all on that bed. So I got up there and I started walking on the flowers. So when I got home and I sat down, my grandmother thought I had mud on my feet. And she goes, "Oh, no, you need to go wash your feet." And then she looked a little closer and she goes, "Oh my good, don't move." She said, "Just sit there." And when my mom got home, she made her clean my feet. So they took Elmer's glue. Back then it was like, it wasn't called Elmer's, it was something else. But she took glue and she put it on my feet. And she waited for it to dry, and then she peeled. And as she peeled it, the stingers came out. Thank goodness I'm not allergic to bees. It was both my feet, and they were covered from tip to heel, from toe to tip, from the tip of my toe to the back of my heel. The entirety of my feet, both my little feet. And so while I was working at this pizza restaurant, God had me go and buy perfume because he's like, "Go buy perfume." He wanted me to start wearing makeup and wearing perfume, doing the things that I used to love doing when I was younger, that while I was married, he took away because he didn't want men to see my radiance, see my light, see my beauty. But you can't hide it. The light shines from within, and as soon as I would smile or someone would make me laugh, it would shine bright, and he hated it. He would try and stuff it because he wanted it all for himself. And so I slowly stopped doing these things that made me happy, that made me feel joy. And so God has slowly been putting those things back in my hand. And I'm like, okay, I'm a minimalist. I don't like a lot of makeup. First off, because it feels cakey on my face, and because I haven't worn it ever. The last time I wore it, foundation, was when I was 15, and the pimples that would pop up were so gross and disgusting. I stopped all that. So now I only wear mascara, eyeliner, and lipstick. That's it. And the first time, because apparently my husband asked God, "Can she wear makeup to work?" So I wore makeup, and the first time I wore makeup, he was just like, "Damn." And he wasn't the only one that took notice. So did the big boss. And I wasn't wearing it for anyone but for myself because God had told me it's time. And so I went to Target that was next door, and I bought perfume. And I don't smell stuff. I just go by what God tells me to. And I hadn't looked at the name of the perfume until God says, "You should look at the name." And I was like, "Okay." And I looked at the name, and it said Queen Bee. I'm like, okay. So I'm the Queen Bee? And he goes, "Yep, you're my Queen Bee." And I'm like, "Thank you, Father." And throughout this process, all of this, he's been telling me that I'm the apple of his eye. And every time I see an apple, every time I see that phrase, or I hear that phrase, I know it's God. I know it's him telling me, "You're the apple of my eye." And we have a very, very special relationship because I've been talking to him since I was little. And even though I've been in the world, I still talk to him. I'm like, "Father, why am I going through this? Why am I going?" Because I never said no. If he says, "I want you to go here," okay. And I went there. And I was like, "Please, can I go now?" And he would take me out of there, and he's like, "Okay." The world thinks I do things the way the world wants, but no, I still do it the way God wants it. But this relationship that he had me in with this man for 23 years, because the manipulation that I went through with the woman who raised me, and she taught him how to manipulate me. And when I first got into this relationship with him, he wasn't like this. So I let my guard down. I allowed him to penetrate my defenses, the defenses that I had built since I was a child. So he got behind the wall. And I gave him the keys to my heart. And when I did that, I opened myself to the manipulation and to the things that I prevented from the woman who raised me. Like, yeah, she, I still wanted her love. I still wanted her attention. I still felt like an orphan and all that. And he did too, because his mother passed away when he was just a child. So we had that in common, where we bonded because of a loss that we had. Um, at that point, I had not yet confirmed that she was not my mother indeed. It wasn't until I went to California and I saw the behaviors of my real father, and I realized, okay, I was right. God was telling, I was hearing God correctly. She is not my mother. He was not my father. This is my father. This is what it feels like to have a real father in the flesh. Not, God is God, and he's always going to be God. He doesn't change. But I had never felt what it was like to have a real father. And this man, the 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 peace that I felt when I was around him, the knowing, like, I would ask him questions and he's like, how did you know I was going to ask? He's like, I was about to ask you the same thing. Like, after work, he likes sitting down and watching a game. After work, I like sitting down and watching a game. For me, it was football or baseball or whatever was on TV, because I didn't get the soccer channels. And so with him, because he has the soccer channels, it was, do you want to watch a game? And I was like, so what game are we going to watch? And he'd be like, I was just going to ask you if you wanted to watch the game. I'm like, well, let's sit down. And then while we're sitting, I was about to ask him if he wanted a beer, because he drinks Coors Light and I drink Coors Light. And I was about to ask him if he wanted a beer, and I was going to get up and go get one. And he got up first, and he looked at me and he goes, do you want a beer? And I was like, I was about to ask you that. So he went, grabbed a beer, and then he grabbed some chips. And I was like, he eats the way I do. And so he put the chips between us. And so we're sitting there snacking. And I normally will, if I'm sitting down on a long couch, which this one was, I will cross my legs and I will sit there and just drink my beer and, eat my chips. And God, like, says, look over. So I look over at my uncle, who's my dad, and he's got the exact same foot crossed over, and we're sitting exactly the same. My hand is in between my knees, like it is right now. And his hand is in between, the same hand is in between his knees. And I was like, that's how you know your family. Because you do the same things. And my aunt, so my uncle wasn't paying attention. And I noticed that my aunt, the woman that he's living with, was watching us. Like, he doesn't see it. He doesn't see that his daughter is his exact copy. And I am. I can't even explain it. Like, those 6 weeks that I got to spend with him were the happiest 6 weeks of my life, because I got to be with my dad. But you got to leave your parents. You can't stay with them. And my husband wasn't in California. He was in Arizona. So I had to come be with him. So Rebecca moved. And I did. So I know I talked yesterday about the veil. And so this morning, as I'm, making my bed and pulling the curtain back, I felt this joy. And I'm like, Father, why am I so happy? And he goes, your husband read the text and it's making him smile. It's making him laugh. He's like, it's such a dumb joke. How does she remember that? And I told her that joke so long ago. I didn't think, and that's all he can say. I didn't think. And he's in awe. He's in awe, because after all the things that happened, after everything that's gone wrong, the fact that I remembered this dumb joke that's inappropriate. And I sent him that same joke to make him smile, to make him laugh when he needed it the most. Because he's feeling the sadness of not having me there. Not having my joy, not having my presence, not watching me do me, you know. Us children of God, and men and women, it doesn't matter which, we have a way about us that when we walk into a room, we're not paying attention to anybody else. We're just doing our thing, la 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 la, you know, having our fun, and we get into our routines, and it just feels good and natural, and we're just like, everybody else looks at us like, how the heck are they doing this? Like, I don't even, how are they not tired? It's because we have the Spirit of God within us. And when we have the Spirit of God within us, nothing, and I mean nothing, can stop us. And so, you know, I'd get there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'd start working, and I'd start running, and, you know, I'm dancing. So he misses all that because he watches me. That was his favorite thing to do, was to watch me. Just like my favorite thing to do was watch him. And I didn't even realize that. I didn't even realize that he liked watching me until God made me pay attention. He's like, look, he's watching you. And I'd look up, and he would pretend he wasn't watching me. I'm like, I saw you. I saw you. I saw you watching me. I saw you looking at me. I saw you paying attention to me. God told me, he goes, he can't hide his feelings for you from you. Everyone else can't see it. Everyone else can't see the love in his eyes. But when he looks at you, he can't hide it from you. Because I'm showing you, you know, I'm showing you. I'm showing his care for you. So there were things that he knew I couldn't do. And so God would have me go and, you know, and especially the refrigerator. For some reason, the rest of the people, the tall people, mostly men, because that's who works in the back kitchen, were men. And so, well, they're not men, they're boys. There's only one man, and that's my spouse. And so these boys would so we get deliveries every other day, sometimes every day, for grocery, produce. Because it's the only thing that we can't keep, you know, so we have to have a regular delivery so that we can replenish what we use every day. And so this man will come and drop off, you know, whatever they've ordered, and he will leave it in the corner. First off, I have to use the ladder to get to the top shelf where they put the dressings, the ranch. Don't ask me why they decided to put it on the very top shelf. I can't reach the very top shelf, but that's where it is, so that's where I am.